Right, press wrong button, so carry on with the video. Whoops. Right, next one then is about explaining the transformation. One thing I haven't done is labelled it. So this time I need to go B onto A. So this time my first mark comes from an enlargement. Yes, it's getting smaller, but we're still using that word enlargement. We're still enlarging from this point because that's where it's changing. So at, and then -4, -4. And then the final part, instead of getting 3 times bigger, we're getting 3 times smaller. And this is how we put this. We write it as a fraction, scale factor 1/3. So if it was a scale factor of 2, the inverse would scale factor of 1/2. Scale factor 4 would be scale factor of 1/4. Okay, so again, if you can decide which scale factor it is going one way, the inverse is just that reciprocal. So it's just where you flip it upside down effectively. Rather than 3/1 becomes 1/3 as its reciprocal. Right, 1 mark, 2 marks, 3 marks. Plus then that enlargement, that's a lovely 6 marks. Right, so we've got calculators and would be lovely on this question, but we've not got them, so we're going to persevere without. So we've got here, Ed has a card shop. He buys a particular card for £1.20 and sells it for £1.68. Calculate the percentage profit. So the first thing I want to know is, because it's worth 3 marks, let's work out what the profit is. So we've got 8/4, so he's got 48p. I'm going to do that as a fraction, 48p over my starting amount, which is 120. What I'd love to be able to do now is do that multiplied by 100, and it will just work it out for me on my calculator. At the minute I can't, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify it up, because actually by simplifying it up it might give me a nicer fraction to then use. So let's have a look. So 12 goes into both of them. So I've got 12, 24, 36, 48. So that gives me 4/10. Now I've got it as 4/10. If I was to take that over to 100, if I wasn't sure what this was, I'm then multiplying both by 10. So I've got 40%. Ed's profit on good luck cards in 2018 was £360. Well, it took me a while to get there. This was a decrease of 20% on his profit in 2017. What's going on, I can't read. Work out Ed's profit for his cards in 2017. Okay, so we've already got the 2018. What we've got to do is go back, and unfortunately it isn't just a case of let's find out what 20% is and then subtract it or add it on. Okay, what we've got to do is a reverse percentage. Okay, so best way to look at this is what we would normally have is our starting amount, then if we're on a calculator, multiplied by whatever this percentage change is going to be, and that would then be equal to our new amount. Okay, so what I've got then is my new amount is 360. My percentage change is a decrease of 20%. So that would be 100% subtract 20% equals 80%, and as a decimal that would be equal to 0.8, or as a fraction 8/10, or 4/5. Right, so just going to put the 0.8 there, and then this is what we're trying to find. So because we're trying to go backwards, we've now got to do the inverse. So what I've got to do is 360 divided by 0.8. If you don't like dividing by decimals, this is what you can do. If I make this side 10 times bigger and this side equally 10 times bigger, what I end up with is 3,600 divided by 8. Because both of these are proportionally being made bigger, my answer for this question is exactly the same answer for that question. So for example, 20 divided by 10 is equal to 2. 200 divided by 100 is equal to 2. And see, now we've made them proportionally bigger. It says 2 divided by 1 equals to 2, and so on. Right? So by now doing this, 8 into 3 don't go, carry the 3 over. 8 into 36 goes 8, 16, 24, 32, and then 40. So 40 is too big, so we've got here 1, 2, 3, 4 times, remainder 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times into 40, and then 0. So my starting amount is £450. If I wanted to check it, 10% of that would be 45, 20% would be 90 because I've doubled it. 450 subtract 90 gives me 360. Okay, so I'm happy days, I've got my 3 marks. A sunflower grows at a rate of 4 centimeters each day. How many days does it take to grow from a height of 80 centimeters to 1.06 meters? So 1 meter equals to 100 centimeters. So if I take the 106 and multiply it by 100, so 1.06 gives me 106 centimeters. I want to find out the difference between them two, because we're looking for how many extra days is it going to take. So we've got, subtract off the 80, so we've got 0, sorry, no we haven't, we've got 6, 26 centimeters. So we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and then we've got 28. And I'm going to go to 28 days because at 1 day previously, for the 24 centimeters, it wouldn't have grown enough. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 days. If the sunflower grows at a faster rate, how would this affect your answer? Well, the time would decrease. Faster rate means it's going to blast through these days quicker. Okay, next then, a bag contains 4 red counters and 3 blue counters. Okay, so in your first paper you had a frequency diagram. Tree diagrams do come up quite often as well. So we've got Jack picks a counter at random, then replaces it. So we've got 4 sevenths, so here blue has got to be 3. And then we've got 4 sevenths, 3 sevenths. Please make sure you fill this in correctly because it will be the 2 easiest marks you could get. Okay, for your next 2 marks then it says work out the probability that Jack picks 2 red counters. When we're doing probability trees, okay, when we're moving up and down, as like when we're looking at the arms together, we're using addition. When we want to find probability of multiple outcomes, when we're moving left and right, we use multiplication. Work out the probability that Jack picks 2 red counters. I have got 4/7 multiplied by 4/7. When you multiply in fractions, we are doing top multiplied by top, bottom multiplied by bottom. So I've got 4 multiplied by 4 over 7 multiplied by 7. So I've got 16 over 49. 2 lovely square numbers. Ooh, a lovely 6 marker here. Adam buys some theatre tickets in a sale. The normal price is 80 quid for each adult and £40 for each child. In the sale, the prices are reduced by 15%. Adam buys 2 adults and 1 child ticket at the sale price. A 2% booking fee is then added on. Work out the total cost. So let's deal with our adult tickets. Right, 2 ways of tackling it. Work out your 15% for both, and then do your 2 adults, 1 child, and then you do your 2% after it. Or you find out what this is first of all with 2 adults, 2 child, and take your 15% off there. But it's after that point, it's always that 2%'s got to come after it, okay? Because it's the 2% of what you're going to pay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with them separately. So I'm going to do £80 divided by 10 equals £8. That's just found me what 10% is. 5% would be my £8, which is the 10%, divided by 2 equals to £4. So that means that my 15% is equal to £12. If it's a sale, that means I'm doing a decrease. So I've got £80 subtract £12 gives me £68. So that's 1 adult ticket. So I want £68 multiplied by 2 gives me 16, gives me 12, gives me £136 for the adults. Okay, for the children, I've got 1 child ticket, so I've got, what have I got, 40 quid, so I've got 40 divided by 10 equals £4. And then for the 5%, 4 divided by 2 equals £2. So my 15% off for my child ticket is going to be, I'm going to save £6. So I've then got 40 subtract £6 gives me £34. Okay, so I've got my 2 adult tickets plus the child ticket, which is not a 6, is a 4. 10, 7 and 1, so I'm paying £170. Now I need to put on a 2% booking fee, so this is like an additional charge, so it's going to be an increase. So I'm going to do 170 divided by 100, and that will find me what 1% is. So that is £1.70. So if 1% is equal to £1.70, I want 2%, so it gives me double, so 0, 14, 2, and then £3.40. Now I can take my total and then add on my booking fee which says that they are going to pay £173.40, and again that's what the ticket sales are, plus the £3.40 booking fee. Okay, we've got two more. Yeah, tasty one at the end as well. Right, one day a group of people had a driving test. Lovely. 40 of this group were men and the rest were women. 3/5 of the men and 2/3 of the women passed the driving test. So I'm going to stop at that point, because out of the 5 marks I can get a mark here. So I'm going to do 40 divided by 5 and multiply it by 3 to find out how many men passed. So 40 divided into 5 is 8. 8 multiplied by 3 is 24 passed, and that's the males. Okay, 2/3 of the women on their driving test passed. The number of men and women that passed the driving test was the same. So that also means that 24 ladies passed as well. Work out the number of women that took the test that day. Okay, so for women, what we now know is that 2/3 who passed is equal to 24. What we need to know then is what 1/3 would be. So 1/3 would be half of this amount, because we've got 2/3. Now that we know that we've got 2/3 and 1/3, if we add this together for 3/3, we've got 36 ladies took the test. Okay, so for a 5 marker, not a huge amount necessarily to do, which is always a win. Right, last question. Angles, I think, is going to come up. This is a fantastic angle question, if you like angles, obviously, but it also links in nicely with algebra. The great thing here is we can use that method that I've talked about previously, is write equations down, because you will get marks for that when they're correct. So it says here, we need to find out this angle. 2 lines that intersect like this have vertically opposite angles, so these two are equal. So my first equation is going to be this: x plus 20 is equal to 3x subtract 50. Bosh, right? That's 1 mark straight off the bat. Now I can solve it. Right, at the minute I've got x's on both sides, so I'm going to take off this x here, and I'm going to subtract an x off of here. So that leaves me with 20 is equal to 2x subtract 50. Right, I need x on its own. I know it's flipped round, so if you really needed to, you could flip it round the way you like, but it's the same process. This time adding 50 to both sides because I need to get rid of this. So it gives me that 2x's is equal to 70. Then when I divide it by 2, 1x is equal to 35 degrees. Okay, so now I've found out what the x is. I'm not going to bother with this one, mainly because I got less to do on here. So this angle here is going to be worth that 35 degrees that x is worth, add the 20 degrees, which is equal to 55 degrees. So this angle now is worth 55 degrees, and guess what? That angle is also worth 55 degrees. What I now need to do though is use the information to find out what y is. Some people will do 55 add 55, take it off of 360, divide it by 2, fine, okay, but it is quite a lot, when actually if you just look at it like this, that's a straight line angle. Straight line angles equals to 180 degrees. So what I've got here is 180 degrees subtract 55 degrees. So do my exchanging. So y is equal to 125 degrees. So again, it's a 6-mark question to do with angle facts. It's actually alright.
Okay.